welcome into Triple Zeros. I'm your host, Josh Buckalter. Follow me on Twitter at JoshGBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, website, clockersports.com. Email address, clockersports@gmail.com. Let's get right into it, man. You know, we got the finals going on still. You got NFL Week 4 action happening right now. So, getting right into it, like I said, you got, first of all, Monday night doubleheader. The COVID doubleheader because Cam Newton came down with the coronavirus, and they ended up postponing this game until Monday night. It was the early game, Chiefs-Patriots. And to be honest, I was surprised at how well the Patriots managed to contain the Chiefs, mostly, obviously, Patrick Mahomes. That was a big he only threw, I think, one score. But they had a couple of creative plays along the way, so it wasn't like he wasn't doing his thing. It just wasn't relying on him slinging like it usually wasn't. And the Patriots defense actually held up pretty well. What got him, obviously, was not having Newton there. Brian Hoyer ended up getting pulled for Jarrett Stidham late in that game. So, again, not not ideal circumstances, but they played the game. I was telling somebody earlier on that there was no way they were going to end up postponing both of these games. You know, after you had the Steelers and Titans have to get put off until a couple of weeks from now. So, Mahomes threw 2 touchdowns, 236 yards. It wasn't, like I said, it just wasn't a spectacular performance overall. Despite the 2 touchdowns, I guess that makes it incredible just because of how the coverage for the Patriots defense was. But they were helped, obviously. He was helped greatly by the defense, by the Patriots quarterbacks, Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer throwing picks. There was a pick 6 that went right through Julian Edelman's hands from Stidham. That didn't go well. He threw 2 picks. Hoyer threw one on his own. It just was ugly. And you found yourself, or I found myself, oddly feeling a little bit bad for Bill Belichick. I know. That's like, what? You know, you can't feel bad for the Grinch. But, man, I felt kind of bad for him because it was like, damn, this is rough. You guys are scraping the barrel here, and it's not. Oh, that's rough. So anyway, it just wasn't a great performance by them. And the Chiefs, like I said, it was an okay performance, all things considered, but it just didn't look like them. Tyreek Hill had 4 catches, 64 yards, a touchdown. Travis Kelce had three catches for 70 yards, including a really nice catch and run, down the seam. It just wasn't a typical Chiefs outing. But I guess the fact that they did that against the Patriots defense, goes to show you exactly how great it is. Listen, I'm getting beside myself. I need to go ahead and get right to it. Josh Allen is your MVP. And I say this as a person who began the season pounding the table for Kyler Murray to be the MVP. But quite frankly, he has disappointed me and let me down in the past couple of weeks. The train has broken down. We are in the station. I'm off. And we'll talk about that in a second. I have to talk about Josh Allen right now. The Buffalo Bills beat the Las Vegas Raiders 30-23 in a game that actually the Raiders were much more competitive than I thought they would be, considering they were down everybody, almost all of the receivers. So that was a good effort from them. But Josh Allen threw 2 more touchdowns. We talked about him being the guy, him and Russell Wilson actually taking that step forward ahead of Kyler Murray last episode, but Kyler Murray's performance against the Panthers is just, I knew that there would be some pains for this offense, right, coming in. It was only a second year, but I didn't think it would be so pronounced that they would look like they did against the Panthers. They lost 31-21 that game. Murray threw 3 touchdowns, no picks, but it just was a struggle, and they couldn't get much going. The offense wasn't great. I think more than anything, they kind of like myself were surprised by the effectiveness of Carolina's offense. But and that's another thing, by the way. Teddy Bridgewater, man, would have been nice to see him operate in a certain offense right here on the lakefront this past Sunday. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. Murray's slide the past couple of games has not been good. The Panthers the Cardinals have kind of lost their way, taking L's back-to-back weeks. And look, quite frankly, Josh Allen has earned the right to be up there at the top right now. So he was came into the week leading the league in passing yards or air yards. I can't remember which one it was, and I can't find the note that I had it on. It's his. Russ is still on his heels. Don't get me wrong. Russell Westbrook of the Seattle Seahawks still right there on both of their heels, or on Allen's heels, because Kyler's out of it. And it pains me to even have to say it, because I was really, really, really certain that was going to be when the nuke trade happened. I was like, oh, it's a wrap. But anyway, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, 31-23, same score. Wow, that's interesting. Against the Miami Dolphins. And so, well, the other one was 31-21. 31-23 for the Seahawks over the Dolphins. And now, you're probably going to see a lot more Russ, and this is where I think Russ has a chance to come and catch back up. Now, he threw 360, 2 more touchdowns and a pick. Now, he's thrown for a higher percentage, but I believe it was less yards. He might have caught back up now to Allen with what he just did with this game. But the touchdowns that Allen's putting up, both on the air and in the ground, is what's kind of separating him here. It's the Lamar Jackson factor going on there. Russ, though, is just doing it in such a precise manner. It's kind of like Peyton Manning and Drew Brees, where they're putting up gaudy numbers in such different ways, but they're valid in their own right. Russ might not have the overall touchdown numbers, but he's so effective, so efficient with what he does. And then Josh Allen obviously is scoring through the air, on the ground. He's just scoring. He's accounting for all the points right now. So it'll be interesting to see how that race plays out in the weeks to come there. Dallas Cowboys got ran over by the Cleveland Browns, and I mean ran over. When they gave up 73 rushing yards to Odell Beckham Jr. in this game. That's how bad they got ran over. 95 yards to Deontay Johnson, I believe his name is. Deion Johnson. I don't remember the guy's name. Oh, my goodness. From the Cleveland Browns. 13 rushes, 95 yards. Kareem Hunt, who actually came in relief for Nick Chubb, who only had 43 yards on 6 carries, ended up going out with an injury and was going to be out for a few weeks now. So you hate to see that. But you also had Dontrell Hilliard getting them 5 carries for 19 yards. Like, they were just putting up carries or putting up yardage on not a lot of totes apiece. And look, Dallas' defense is bad. 49-38 this game. Dak Prescott threw for 502 yards, setting records for the most passing yards through the first 4 weeks of the season, putting himself above Tony Romo and the like, and can't get it done. And that's the Mike McCarthy effect. You kind of expected to see this. You only got 12 rushes from Ezekiel Elliott, as the Cowboys were kind of playing catch-up most of the day. But that's still not an excuse to see only 12 from Ezekiel Elliott. He did, however, catch 8 passes. So it's not like they didn't give him touches. He just wasn't getting the rushes. You knew they would look something like the Packers of a couple of years ago, because that's what Mike McCarthy was. And I know, they sit a couple of years out and everybody expects these coaches to reinvent themselves, but they really don't. They just come back more ingrained, but with a different twist to it. And maybe they modernize what they do. They don't really modernize the offense itself. So it's always going to be interesting. But now at 1-3, the Cowboys definitely have some questions to answer. They've even gone so far as to have McCarthy throw the defensive coordinator Mike Nolan under the bus, saying that you got to be more than a one-call defense. Look, Mike, you got to learn how to control the ball, and you can't have Dak and Zeke fumbling like that. And Dak, I think, ends up being a Chicago Bear when it's all said and done next year, because look, that's just the way it is. Wishful thinking. I'll talk about that in a second, but this is not unexpected. I kind of thought that this is how it would go for the Cowboys. That's what Mike McCarthy was with the Packers, and that's what he is. It looks like the Packers from like 2017, 2016. This is just how it's insane how similar it is. A very explosive offense, but the defense is getting shredded. Injuries have played a big part, but they're also not playing well. So you take it from that what you will. It's not good at all, and especially when you have your head coach throwing the defensive coordinator under the bus after week 4, right? And honestly, if Atlanta special teams players are alert, they're 0-4. It's not good in Big D. Joe Burrow did get his first win though, playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's awesome. Joe Mixon went off. I talked about that. This was on Thursday. That was a game that I benched Joe Mixon because he had not been doing well, and the man went off, and I'm talking about big points. Best game he'll ever have in his career ever, and I just had to watch it. It hurts. Just brought that up just so I could bring up something that nobody cares about, but it's my show. I'll do what I want. The Detroit Lions blew another lead, this time They were taking on the New Orleans Saints, down Michael Thomas. Drew Brees went off in this one, and they put up 35 points. The Lions scored 29. Look, this is their 6th straight game that they had 10-plus points, and they led 10-plus points. And after the game, Matt Patricia was asked about, how he felt he's done, and he's saying he was brought in to do a lot of work. Look, Jim Caldwell got fired after a 9-7 season, and then you came in and rode his coattails, and now things are unraveling as predicted by a lot of people. I just hate seeing these kind of moments where it's a Lovie Smith thing, right? Lovie Smith got fired for going 10-6 and missing the playoffs. 10-6, missed the playoffs because the rest of the division was hot, and you got fired. These are situations that can't happen, man. Especially because the franchises have been in turmoil since, and really had a good thing going, and just didn't know how to deal with the down season. Now, the thing that I think made this the most interesting to me is that Matthew Stafford has been playing incredibly well. But he has boneheaded moments, and it kind of reminds me of it's not Ben. Who does Stafford remind me of? Oh, Jay Cutler with better talent around him, and a better demeanor. That's not a knock on Jay overall. I don't know Jay Cutler, but Drew Brees 246, 2 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara 83 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Emmanuel Sanders had 93 yards on the bench. Dude, it was a rough one. Traquan Smith sat him 454, 2 touchdowns. Listen, a lot of fantasy references in this one because a lot of pain came from this one. 3-3 week, by the way. Nobody cares. 206 yards for Stafford, 3 tugs in this one. He threw a touchdown to Kenny Golladay making his return after with the hamstring. DeAndre Swift caught one, and he threw another one to TJ Hawkinson, who's actually been a nice little player for them coming out of Iowa. Look, Detroit has pieces, but they just don't have a culture, and Matt Patricia is just like many other Belichick disciples, and we'll talk about one in a second, who think that they can bring that kind of presence to their new organization, and it just never works. Bill O'Brien of the Houston Texans was fired. The big story for him is the offseason trade of DeAndre Hopkins. He's got a winning record, didn't miss the play or didn't have a losing record. They were making the playoffs, but you trade a premium pick for Duke Johnson and then you don't use him. He's also the GM. He was also the GM. You trade your best receiver because you didn't like his influence in the locker room and then claim to be a big money deal, but you trade for a big money injury prone running back. None of it makes sense. And then to see the results of that trade, like I think management had no idea that the trade was coming. Ownership probably didn't see it coming, or were willing to let him try. And then now they're seeing the results, and Deshaun Watson struggling. The Texans sitting there at over. Did they get a W? Are the Texans over? Texans aren't over right now, but they're not anywhere where they're supposed to be. 0-4, and Deshaun Watson has looked lost. They have the highest payroll. It's not going to be very good for them in the short term, near term. They're being outscored by 46 points this season. It's not good. It hasn't been good for Bill O'Brien for quite some time. And again, like I said, when you make that trade for DeAndre Hopkins, dude, or trade away of DeAndre Hopkins, dude, you have to know your days are numbered. And then you come out here with this lackluster effort. The offense, I get it. There was no preseason, but no one's had a preseason, and I don't think there's been any offense that's looked as disjointed outside of Chicago as the Houston Texans passing game has in recent weeks. Just because they don't seem to know. Watson needed that security blanket, and they haven't really added that back, and it's quite obvious, and it sucks because that was a team that a lot of people had high hopes for coming to the season, but you just see it didn't work, and obviously that's what cost O'Brien his job. There was a fight between the Los Angeles Rams, Jalen Ramsey, and New York Giants, Golden Tate. There is some sibling dating going on in that situation, and a kerfuffle broke out. Neither one of them dudes is busting a grape in a fruit fight. They just do a lot of talk. Maybe there was some hand slapping and stuff, but there was nothing serious going to happen. Come on, quit it. You guys are millionaires. Stop it. It's not the Hills. It's not TV. Knock it off. Yeah, so it's mayhem everywhere. Also, speaking of fights, Earl Thomas, formerly of the Seattle Seahawks and then from the Baltimore Ravens, where he got into a fight with a teammate, he was passed up on by the Houston Texans, which is probably the right move because they really need help with the run defense. I didn't get them trying to bring him anyway other than the Texas thing, but yeah, they passed on him too, which, you know, if you can't get into that locker room, if Bill O'Brien doesn't think it's a good deal, you're probably done so. Okay? If you can't get him convinced, then you probably can't do it. Just give it up. Tom Brady battles back for the Buccaneers from down 17. And if you can see the stream right now, I'm covering my face. And the reason I'm covering my face is because these Buccaneers will be taking on my Chicago Bears this week. The Bears who just fell 19-11 to the Indianapolis Colts in a game that really had my confidence behind them. I thought that they would be able to derail this Indy train that had been building because, hey, the Colts victories weren't any more impressive than the Bears victories, and the Colts actually had a loss to the Jaguars of all teams, who I think might be really weak after it's all said and done with Gardner Minshew. Man, you talk about a humbling loss. They couldn't do anything. Defense was out there holding its own. They gave up the opening touchdown on that opening drive, but after that it was field goals and punts and penalties and drop takeaways, man. It was bad. It's been a bad week. Listen, that's if my demeanor seems lesser than in this episode, it's because it was a rough week for Chicago sports. My Cubs got eliminated. Can't even root for Chicago because the Sox got eliminated before that. You had this Bears news. The Bulls are holding on by a thread, and I'll talk about them later on, but it's been rough. It has been rough, let me tell you. And as I wrote in the article for Last Word on Pro Football, the Bears' luck just ran out in Indianapolis. They've been getting by on drop passes at the goal line, late rallies, and the Colts defense was too good for that. The Colts were too good for that, methodical. Phillip Rivers, who I'm used to being a little bit wild with the loose with the football, had one of his cleaner games, and that offensive line. Look at what happens when you invest in your offensive line, and I mean heavily invest. And then you turn around and spend another pick on defensive line. Now, granted, Bears did that too, but he did it outside. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked because the first one was actually Hicks and blah blah blah. I digress. Point is, it was very demoralizing to see the Bears get manhandled up front like that and have nothing on offense. But I have noticed a trend, and I wrote about this in the article. As I said, for the Last Word on Pro Football, Bears' luck ran out against the Indianapolis Colts. Matt Nagy seems to struggle against the guys who are a part of that coaching tree, from the Andy Reid coaching tree. It seems like the plays get extremely vanilla. He gets extremely predictable. And what's worse is that he gets predictably unpredictable, in that you can almost guarantee he's going to call the worst possible call. And that's armchair quarterback and armchair coaching, whatever. That's fine. But man, he's 0-4 now against everybody, the prominent offenses in the system in the league now, or the newer guys, I guess, because you still got Harbaugh too. I guess that kind of counts. But he is 0-4 against Andy Reid, Doug Peterson in Philadelphia, and now 2 games against Peterson, including the playoffs, and now Frank Reich with the Colts, who got the scheme in part from Doug Peterson. It's not good. It's not a good look, man. One thing I will say about this loss, and the switch to Nick Foles is still a great idea, is that it set that final clock for this regime. This is it, right? There's no going back to Mitch. I'm sorry, because if you think Mitch is going to rescue the season, matter of fact, if he does, so be it. But if this fails too, and then you have to go back to Mitch, boy, you better hope he can rescue it, because everybody gone. That's the best part about this to me, is that we have spent. That's not to say that I want to see them gone or people get fired. But my point is, if this isn't it, then it needs to be done with now. Now, I know financially they're locked into some deals that are going to end up hurting. We'll see how that Robert Quinn thing shakes out, but I am not satisfied so far. I'm waiting for him to turn it on, because I was sold on him being this great pass rushing condition, and we haven't seen it so far. But and I know I was told JJ Stankiewicz told me about how his presence is helping Mac get some better looks, but I need more production. Period. And so we'll see how they respond to the Buccaneers. I don't think you're going to get the answer to how this team is going to be this week, but after this little 10-day mini bye, then we'll probably get to see how they are after that. Now they still have some tough games. Tennessee Titans. I think they play the Saints too. They have some tough matchups coming up still, but they will have more time to practice, more time to get some things installed and get more comfortable with Nick Foles and Allen Robinson and those guys. But yeah, man, it was not a good look for Matt Nagy with Foles coming out looking flat, offense looking unimaginative. And why are they forcing the ball to Mooney? What's going on with the receiving core with Anthony Miller? And if we were going to come into this season with Darnell Mooney as the number 2, I don't care how impressed with him you've been this offseason. That's not good. That's a problem. And a problem that I don't think anybody foresaw. Now, we had questions about who the number 2 would be, but damned if we didn't think it would be Anthony Miller, and he is literally just pigeonholed as a slot receiver right now. Not good, man. It's all been bad. And then you got the mix-up. Why are you forcing Patterson the ball right now? Early on. Give it to Montgomery. 6 carries in the first half. 9 runs that weren't a quarterback run. Like, dude. Oh, it was such a brutal game to watch. Such a brutal game to watch. Let's switch gears. I'm getting upset. But check out that article for Last Run of Pro Football. Bears' luck runs out against the Indianapolis Colts. Be sure to look out for the write-up on the Buccaneers, and I got to figure out how I'm going to cleverly phrase that title on that one. But that will be coming out tomorrow. It has to come out Tuesday, Wednesday at the latest, but I would love to get it out the same day that this pod will be dropping. So, switching gears over to the NBA Finals, the Miami Heat stole a game 115-104 against the Lakers. Jimmy Butler, buckets. Jimbo went off of 40 points, 11 rebounds, 13 assists with the triple-double on the Los Angeles Lakers. Look, Jimmy was hurt just the last game. Was out there hobbling, looking like a shell of himself, but was still dishing out assists. He's doing it again. We got 17 points from Tyler Hero, who gave a nasty little snarl that everybody's been memeing up since it happened. Kelly Olynyk poured in 17. Look, if Bam comes back in Game 4 and he's questionable, you have to keep Kelly Olynyk and Myers Leonard involved. Leonard gave you 7 points, but their ability to stretch the floor, obviously having the body out there to absorb some of those minutes is great. But their ability to stretch the floor is a dynamic that LA didn't account for and kind of neutralizes what they can do with Dwight and JaVale. And to some extent, even Anthony Davis, because, you know, bigs out in space is just never comfortable. Davis can do it, obviously. But you just never, that's not where you want them to have to guard. And so you have to keep those guys involved when Bam comes back. Unfortunately, Dragic will not be coming back, and he's been going through a tough, according to some of the tweets that are coming out about him. Hopefully, they can extend it some more, and he does get a chance to play, and they can maybe pull out the ultimate upset. But Jimmy was a story in this one. 14-20 from the floor. He didn't shoot a 3. Not one 3. 14 free throw attempts by himself. He had more than the whole rest of the team combined. They had 9 combined total. Everybody else, he had 14. 13 assists and 11. Jimmy was killing. He had 5 turnovers, but he also had 2 steals, 2 blocks. Jimmy was killing. That's a clean game right there, man. Look, I know them turnovers are a lot, but if you out here scoring 40 points with a triple-double, can't be too mad about that. Had to let you kind of do. And then on the flip side, Anthony Davis was in foul trouble early and ended up with only 15, 5 and 3 in a game that, you know, saw LeBron James walk off in the waning seconds with about 10 on the clock. And a look that's just not good, which is funny because it came out in a day that people were emphasizing and highlighting Rajon Rondo's leadership and how he advised LeBron about his body language. So now to see LeBron come back with the poor body language is one of those like, guess Rondo's going to have to do a little bit more schooling to make this one effective. But one of the other things that I noticed about it that I thought was particularly interesting was the fact that you had you still had the rest of the Lakers there, right? It wasn't like you can talk about AD not being available because of foul trouble, but And you still got 19 from Kyle Kuzma. Like, where was Caldwell Pope? Where is the White? Like, step up. I need these guys. Oh, my contacts. I need these guys to get it together. Markieff Morris, 19 points. Like, you're getting points from other players, and the usual suspects just kind of faded away into the background. That's not something that you can have. They shot 33% from three. But Miami shot 35%, so it wasn't like they're doing much better. Miami, for as great as shooters that they've been coming into this, they have not done a good job in the finals of shooting the ball. That's been highly disappointing for them. I would like to see them get it going. If they do, there could be a whole different series. But right now, it's looking like they're going to be struggling for the rest of the way. The other part about this, though, is at the end of it, Jimmy was seen, he got people lip reading, saying they in trouble. Come to find out, Jimmy is just repeating what LeBron told him. And look, if that's true and LeBron told him they in trouble and then proceeded to walk off the floor as the clock was winding down, oh man, that's I don't want to overstate it, but it's not a good look. It's really just not a good look overall. It's bad sportsmanship. Granted, you're gonna see him at the lunch line later, so you can talk to him then. But it's not great on camera to walk off that way in that situation. So hopefully, you see better sportsmanship, and it doesn't have to come at the end of a victory. That's going to make it look cheap and not as genuine, and hopefully we get a chance to see it be in a better circumstance. In other news, Doc Rivers has landed as the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. He gets the job after there was a lot of speculation that it would actually be Mike D'Antoni. And so the question immediately is this a better choice than Mike D'Antoni? And I would say yes, and here's why. You don't have to change up what you already have with Doc. You just have to get Doc to figure out how to make it work. Now, that being said, Doc didn't necessarily do that with the Clippers. So you hope that there's enough desire between these guys to want to work it out to be able to make it work. Now, I still think that they might have to retool the roster because I'm not sure Tobias Harris, his style of scoring fits with what the scorers that Embiid and Simmons need around them. I think they need some catch and shoot 3-and-D guys all the way around. You can keep a Josh Richardson as another ball handler out there too, but Tobias, I think, might need the ball a little bit more than they can handle for him to be a consistent threat scoring the ball. So that would be the only thing. But I think if you got D'Antoni, you'd have to move Embiid or Simmons, and now you don't have to necessarily do that. So that's a positive. It does hurt my Bulls because I was hoping that they would be able to steal one of those guys away in a revamp of that system. But with D'Antoni still out there roaming the land, that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. Buddy Hield has reportedly been ignoring calls, and I wouldn't normally bring this up because it's not a major story. A guy who was put on the bench this season as the team was losing without him. When he got to the bench, it came in as a reserve. They were winning. Now he's upset, wants to be gone. LOL. Look, buddy, I like you. You're a good guy. You can shoot. I'm not sure you're out here in the position to be ignoring phone calls, though. You might want to get on the phone. At least have them call your agent. This is not a good look. That's just not a good look for Buddy Hield. Chris Paul has effectively changed the narrative on him. I didn't really get a chance to go over this, but if you think about it, man, the dude went from being a player who people were saying couldn't win with his style because he has to handle the rock a la LeBron. Doesn't have the size, though. Pounds the air out of the ball, like I said. And then you have questions about his temperament when he would throw the temper tantrum after losing to the Spurs and have the shouting matches and, kind of show guys up on the floor. And then you had him trying to storm the locker room with the Clippers when he was with the Rockets. Like, it just wasn't a very good image being portrayed by one of the spokespeople of the league, the player rep, right? NBA player, president, or something like that. Does all the Jake from State Farm, does the commercials, right, for State Farm. Like, you can't be out here wilding out on the floor like that. That's what that always intrigued me by him, to have these wholesome TV deals, but on the floor be kind of a turd. Well, when he got traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder, he could have easily pouted and forced his way out of there. Remember, there were talks of him going to Miami. No deals ever came to fruition. He just gritted it out and got them to the 5th seed with the 0.2 chance of making the playoffs and did it anyway. Was really good for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Dennis Schroeder, and honestly, I think played a large part in Billy Donovan getting the role the new job here with the Chicago Bulls after he decided to leave the Thunder this offseason. So hopefully the Bulls can pull a move to get Chris Paul over here to help teach Kobe White how to play point guard, but that's another deal for another article that will be coming out for Pippen Ain't Easy about some potential trades to get the Bulls into contention for 2021. And that would go along with their speaking. General Manager Mark Eversley came out and said that the Bulls will not be rebuilding. They will be looking to retool. That's exciting as a fan because you don't want to go through that arduous process, and they might be. They're borderline a playoff team now. If they can pull off a deal, which means to me likely that number 4 overall pick and probably a guy like Otto Porter or maybe one of the bigs is gonna go. That's the only thing I can see making a move that'll make a difference. And if they pull that off, more power to them. More power to them. That's part of, I think, the reason why they went for Billy Donovan to get the big name coach. They weren't just getting any coach out there who could have, who was just thirsty for a job. They got a coach who could have went anywhere and took that job, chose that job. They can kind of relay that message to free agents, and we'll see what comes of it. But it was important and reassuring to hear General Manager Mark Eversley come out and say that the Bulls were retooling and not necessarily rebuilding. So that's going to do it for this episode of Triple Zeros. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at JoshGBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, website, clockersports.com, email address, clockersports@gmail.com, and, of course, read the stuff, Last Word on Pro Football, pimpitainteasy.com, American Betting Experts, and, of course, clockersports.com. We're going to be back with the roundtable this week, so be sure to check that out. And, of course, like I said, American Betting Experts, get those picks in. We got to try to win some more money, man. Got to try to win some more money, man. Got to stop trying to swinging those home runs and start getting those singles and those doubles. But we'll be back until the very next time. You already know what it is.